Craig Andrus. Welcome to Call the Mayor Wichita, where you can call and ask anything you'd like about pretty much any topic. We are joined now by, well, not the mayor. Welcome, Vice Mayor.
Thank you very much.
Pleasure
Glad
to
to
have
be
you
here.
here.
Absolutely.
Jeff Blubaugh is in the district number
4,
and that encompasses what space?
Basically, it's from the river to Goddard and Douglas to Hayesville. It's about a fourth of the size of the city. It is the largest district, but a lot of that is because it's made up by population. Each council member represents around 65,000 people. So we have a lot of the airport. We have a lot of the aircraft industry and stuff there. So it takes larger area to make up that same population.
A crucial thing for Wichita, the airport industry, and we could chat about that a little bit. Number's 316-491-5787. That's the number. Call the mayor. You can ask Jeff Blubaugh anything you want. I mean, anything?
Anything, absolutely.
Yeah, we're coming up on Christmas.
Hopefully it's city related.
We could do that. Okay, so first of all, the news, if anybody wants to call about this, and I know people are concerned about this, but, you know, Boeing sounds like it's going to be taking a step back on the 737 MAX right now.
It does. I've kind of been following some of the national media, and it sounds like maybe Boeing just got a little bit aggressive with the FAA, and the FAA was like, you know, we'll make the decision whenever we're ready to make the decision, which they probably should have prompted earlier when we had the first incident. So it's probably a good thing, but it doesn't sound like Boeing's going to lay anybody off. It sounds like Spirit's trying to keep their workforce as well. So I think it's just a matter of working through these and just making sure it's a safe aircraft. From what I understand, these are heavier engines than normal, so the nose was seeming to pitch up a little bit higher, and it kind of seemed like one of those artificial intelligence things that we see in movies a lot of times where you know, the aircraft was kind of taking over for itself. And I'm sure it's a training issue. The FAA is just looking out for everybody's safety, so I think it's a good thing, and hopefully it doesn't have any detrimental effect on us.
Well, that kind of artificial intelligence, it's called NCAS. Don't ask me what the acronym is. I'm sorry, I don't know right offhand, but it's called NCAS, and it you know, pitches the nose down a little bit, and they believe there were some issues there. So it's a question with the local regulators here in the United States, but then a couple overseas. We'll have to see. I know that Boeing had been doing 42, and then Spirit had stepped into the 52 versus 42. So there's going to be a backlog of some things here. The question is, for the community, what lasting impact will it have? Again, you seem to be very adamant that people at Boeing and people at Spirit have a good game plan.
From what I understand, there's just too much of an investment there to walk away. So I feel optimistically or cautiously optimistic on it.
Very good. 316-491-5787. It's the holiday season. We got some snow recently before we taped this, and it was all melting off today. Yes. So that was interesting to see. Now, we do have a snow day coming up, and that's kind of interesting. We did this. Did we do this last year, or was it 2 years ago?
We did it last year.
It's at the Mid-American All-Indian Center, and it is literally a snow day. People can come out and, well, have fun, I guess.
So, you know, I think you can bring any kind of sled. They prefer not to bring a metal sled, so that some kind of plastic bottom sled. And, you know, we don't get the snow that we used to, so I think it's a great opportunity for, you know, us to create some snow and some sledding. And who knows, maybe we'll get snow that day and we don't have to have the artificial snow.
Well, it looks like Snow Bros is doing some of the snow, and Parks and Rec is in on it. Sunbelt Rentals, good to see them on board. I don't think we've ever had Dunkin' Donuts sponsor anything for the city.
I think they're a new sponsor, but New Year's
Donuts.
Eve, what a great way to spend New Year's Eve.
I like it.
You know, everybody's going to be out of school anyway, so we can be out playing on our snow day.
It looks like an absolute good time, and I saw some video from the last time when people got out. I'm on my phone now because I just wanted to show this. Have you voted? I haven't voted yet.
I have voted.
You have voted.
Absolutely.
So what we're looking at is vote for Wichita Dwight D. Eisenhower National Airport for one of the best small airports. Now, I guess they say small, but we're kind of a medium city for sure compared to others across. But National Airport has been nominated for USA Today's 10 Best Reader's Choice Travel Award. And look, what's your feedback been on the airport? I think people would vote yes, they really like this thing.
You know, the airport was something that we kind of fought on the city council, but I think once the communication got out there that we paid for this. We didn't have to raise any tax dollars. We didn't have to use any of our capital improvement budget because it was paid for by FAA funds. Anytime anybody uses the airport, they pay for landing fees and takeoff fees. So they accumulated those fees over years and years, and we were able to utilize that to build a new airport. So I've heard nothing but positive about the airport. It sure changes everybody's first impression of Wichita compared to the old airport, and it's beautiful. We've been tearing down the old hangar the old airport so that we could add a couple more terminals on the end. That was always part of the plan there. So hopefully we'll be able to utilize that and bring in some new carriers.
I know that for emergency purposes, if there's ever a tornado or anything, oh, by the way, 316-491-5787. Call us, call the mayor, call the vice mayor. Your questions are welcome. I know that there's, in case of a tornado or something traumatic, weather situation, you can't go underground, literally underground. Is all that going to remain?
We're going to continue to have that because there's offices, some administratives and stuff underneath there, and of course it is the safe area. So absolutely,
I didn't know that. Well, I'm going to go ahead and vote. It says, vote. So there it is. I just voted. Yay! Oh, and it went through.
And I've had this. Several people share this on my Facebook. Hopefully, people continue to share that because it's a national, recognition to be recognized there in USA Today, and it'll be pretty awesome if we end up winning that.
It is a good new first look at the city when you arrive here. So definitely a nice looking airport, and I like it that they've got kind of the aviation theme going throughout. What's your favorite part of this thing? I like the little nozzles that are those exhaust nozzles? Up top,
they look like an inlet, maybe.
Yeah. Inlet. Yes.
And you see a lot of the different spar components and stuff that they use there. But I like the historical side of things. A lot of people don't realize all the aviation history that we have here in Wichita. So I think that's something we should absolutely be highlighting. I will call Wichita the air capital of the world for the rest of my life. I still think that we are. I know some other cities have tried to claim that from us, but
yes, very much so.
When you look at some of the other aircraft manufacturers that have went out and built business jets and stuff, you can still say that those aircraft are built in Wichita because I've heard that 90% of the parts are still coming from our suppliers right in here in Wichita.
So many suppliers, so reliant on Boeing and Spirit. Oh, that's good to hear that Spirit and Boeing do have a plan in place, and I know even the state, like the governor's office was saying, if we need to support, we will be there to help support because it's such a big part. But Spirit's done a good job of diversifying. Now, where did you work?
I've worked for Textron for 17 years. We were Cessna. We were Textron owned, but we did not have the umbrella of all the other different companies. But I learned a lot. It was a great place to work. At that time, they had the tuition reimbursement program, so I was very fortunate to have my bachelor's, master's, everything paid for through the aircraft companies. I don't know that they do that as much anymore, but it was a great learning opportunity for myself.
Okay, so the Riverfront Legacy Master Plan. Let's go ahead and talk about that. If you'd like to ask a question about that, 316-491-5787 is the number. You can call and ask any question you'd like. The Riverfront Legacy Master Plan. So I know they had a number of tools that were used to kind of gather information from people. It's saying there were 5,000 comments collected through online questionnaires. A lot of people had the questionnaire. So explain here, this is the blue, and what you're seeing at the top of the blue section is Century 2, and that seems to be, still a sticking point, I think, for a lot of people. The plan that we're moving forward with does or does not have Century 2 in there.
So this is something that I've had a little bit of confusion on because I was under the understanding all along that we were looking at the building, we were looking at complete repurposement opportunities, and I've went to a couple of the meetings recently, and it seems now they're more talking about the land and the green space. And this came in front of the city council about a year ago from a group of a lot of business people and some citizens and stuff that wanted to see what we could do with that. It was right in the middle of whenever we were trying to negotiate the baseball field. The public was scrutinized that. They should have. They scrutinized that pretty hard. So we were a little bit gun shy on getting right on top of Century 2. So the city and the county both pitched in $100,000. I think $600,000 was put up by the private entities. And it was my understanding we were going to come up with some different solutions, different ways to look at this. I am not on the committee. Councilmember Johnson is. He's been doing a good job serving on that. Commissioner O'Donnell has been the representative from the county on this. But I guess my feeling, I think the mayor discussed this as well at the city council meeting, is we really didn't see a lot of repurposement opportunities for the existing building. And that's what I'm most disappointed in. They're trying to say now that, well, that was out of scope. It wasn't my understanding that that was out of scope. I thought we were looking at opportunities for the building. I'm certainly against tearing it down. I will tell you, I just ran a campaign over the summer and this last fall, and I sent out over 5,000 surveys to my constituents. I don't think I asked specifically about Century 2, but people were writing on the fronts and backs there. They were letting me know. People were all caps, do not tear down Century 2. The district I represent has been very vocal about this. Do not touch Century 2, do not tear it down. And I intend to represent them the way that they have said. We all represent everyone from the city, but you always want to listen to your constituents, the ones that vote you in there. And I want to challenge the committee whenever it does come to council. I want us to look a little bit harder at repurposement opportunities, because I don't think that, I can't imagine that building 50, 60 years old has to be torn down. I think there's got to be a lot of opportunities for it. And I would sure hate to see it be chiseled out of our, out of the landscape in downtown Wichita.
Well, I think I'm probably quoting the Save Century 2 group here. It's a little one-sided, but from their stance, the building's in decent shape. It just has been lacking some, I guess, deferred maintenance is the word that they kept using. Do you know what the council's been doing on that, or because I've not looked into it? I don't have.
I have not heard deferred maintenance. What I have heard is items that it's not acoustically sound, and that there's that we're missing some of the big shows that can come in because we don't have the we don't have the right loading and unloading on there. But I've been following, I've been involved in the council for almost 7 years now, and the things that I've seen come in front of us as far as Century 2, it doesn't look like building a new facility. It looks like the city would, even if we went to a donor and they paid for the new building, I think the city would still be writing a check every year, because it's not going to make the revenue.
And on some of this, the economic impact, this is coming from the city in the analysis. This is according to 2016 numbers on the cost-benefit analysis side of things. A minimal renovation scenario that keeps performing arts conventions at Century 2 would yield about $360 million. Now, that's the economic impact over the 10-year time frame. While new facilities, they're saying you could double that to anywhere from $915 million up to 921. Now that is over a 10-year span. So roughly the numbers look to be double, but that's cost-benefit analysis. A lot of things right on that, and whether or not that would bear fruit.
So some of the numbers I've seen is a convention center or performing arts could be built between $150 and $200 million. I think no matter what is going to be done, it has to be phased in. I don't think that, obviously we have a $600 million CIP budget. We wouldn't have, we couldn't do anything else for the city if we went in there and jumped on this thing altogether. From the reports that I've seen, it looks to me like a convention center is the closest to coming to a break even. The performing arts is, I know I know it's dated. I know that it needs some changes and stuff, but I think scraping the current building we have is just a step in the wrong direction.
Now, you said CIP budget of
$600 million.
Okay, now that's an important point. If we could go ahead and show some of the scenarios again, just wanted to reiterate what we're looking at with the different scenarios and what might be done to that space. I know part of it's going to attach to, and maybe we could have the bridge from there over to the new ballpark, from that.
Now, the $600 million is our total budget. I'm sorry.
That's total.
Total budget.
No.
Yeah. Sorry.
And I guess if you're looking at doing several different projects, you've got at some point, I guess I'll ask, you got to make sure that you continue to have a strong bond rating for the city.
Absolutely. I mean, that's crucial. I don't know if people don't understand so much, but we do have an excellent bond rating. If it does ever start to slide, we don't get the favorable interest rates we do, and it really affects our lending rate going into the future. So that's something that I'm very cognizant of, and I want to make sure that we keep our debt at a reasonable level so that we don't ever go out there and into extending or sticking our neck out further than what we should, and being penalized from it with a less than favorable bond rating.
A lot of people may not think about that. And look at these scenarios. There's green space in the scenarios that we're looking at now. How important was green space? Was that something that was mentioned specifically, or did anybody say, hey, I'd like an opera house, or how specific did they get when they were kind of writing things in? Because I know I'm fairly plugged into this community, and a lot of people have asked me about it. I said, well, I don't know what the needs are. That's why it's important to talk to City Hall and let your voice be heard, and populace, and let them know what's going on.
So starting out, I was getting a lot of feedback from constituents that they were going to the meetings, and they felt like they weren't being heard. They were just being handed a sticky note, told that is their vote, and they felt like we were telling, or populace was telling them, this is what we're going to do. We're not necessarily asking for your feedback. I did reach out to some of the members of the committee. I shared that feedback with them. I think they made a few changes after that, but I'm still getting a lot of that feedback that folks don't feel like they're being heard. They don't feel like their input is being taken seriously. So many people feel like this has already been, everyone's made up their mind, they're going forward. I will tell you, from my stance on the city council, we have no funding source for this. So before we get too far down the road, it's obviously got to go to the voters somehow. There's no reason, no room out there to go out there to the property tax payers to do this. So it's got to be some kind of sales tax. But I've learned in my time on the city council that you have to be very careful when a sales tax comes out, because when we had one 5 or 6 years ago, we would hear from everybody, just put it out there on the ballot, put it out there, let the voters choose. Well, the feedback I got a lot of times on that was they think that we've endorsed that when we put it on the ballot. So it's not necessarily, I'm going to be very careful in the future, anything I vote to put it out there on the ballot, because I think the perception is, well, your council members, your mayor has gotten behind this and they're endorsing this plan. That's why they put it out in front of us.
316-491-5787 is the number. Getting some Facebook questions, and I don't have an answer for this one. So question is, when is the next air show? I have no idea. This is one I don't have an answer to. I know that most of the time they're usually in the late summer, moving into the fall. It seemed
like we were doing them a couple weeks after Labor Day, maybe mid-September.
We don't have an answer, so I guess they can email in and ask you specifically.
Absolutely. Okay. I'll try to find out.
Well, that's a good question. If you know, or if you're involved with the air show, or a volunteer, or if you're a member of the crew that works on dock, hey, give us a call. We'd love to hear about dock anyway. So, okay, 316-491-5787. You can ask anything you like. I know we're getting up close to the holidays, and a lot of people are thinking about budgets and spending and how much do I spend for Christmas. Back to the budget line of thinking here. Century 2, it was given the professional opinion here in one of the statements from the city to say, like, the opinion of populace in our LCO, that the convention market in particular in this area might come with a new convention center, but this also says there's a question of whether or not it would be a competitive disadvantage to have an underutilized Century 2 next to a new facility. What are your thoughts on mixing and matching old and new facilities here? Does that have some relevance in your mind?
I have not heard that yet. From the studies I've seen from Visit Wichita and other sources, it seems to me that it seems like we're going to get these certain shows that aren't going to go to the top 20 largest cities in the United States. And even if we build the greatest Taj Mahal ever, they're still not going to deviate from those top 10, top 20 cities. So the market we've got in the top 50 cities is kind of the market we've got. I don't necessarily think that the build it and they will come strategy is going to work. I think there'll be a little bit of increase, but I don't think it's ever going to offset the expense that we put into these new structures. I'm all for looking at some new facilities, looking at however we can repurpose or re-identify this, but I just think scraping Century 2 is the wrong direction to go.
Now, you mentioned a couple very, I will say, perhaps not from a development standpoint, you expressed some very kind of, I'll say, fiscally conservative views there to say, let's not overreach, let's not go beyond. I'll back up and ask you a question. Years ago, we had the big brown box, which is now NIAR, and that is out in the county. And that was, where everybody saw a concert and everybody went to. So Brown Arena is kind of not doing those things anymore because we bought and brought in and built interest. At the time, what was your thinking on that when they decided to build a new arena? And by they, I mean people of Sedgwick County.
Now, I thought that I'm glad the way the county did it. They went out to the voters. We did the 1-cent sales tax. We had parameters on when it was going to start, when it was going to stop. It was completed a little bit early, and the county did what they said they were going to do. They built the arena, and that was great. But I'm so glad that you brought up the Kansas Coliseum, because that is a building that
by the way, does anybody know that it was Britt Brown Arena, or did I just throw some trivia out there that nobody knows? Did you know that it was Britt Brown?
I remember it being on the tickets. It was Britt Brown
So you have been to concerts out there?
Yeah.
Anyway, please continue. I didn't mean to break your...
So everyone told us there's nothing we could do with that building. It was not ADA compliant. It had to be torn down. There was no future in it. There was no benefit to that. And I think we sold that building for a pretty low price. So you look at that building now. You look at how we repurposed that building. It's one of the greatest success stories we have here in Wichita. I don't think people realize what NIAR is doing. We're bringing in people all the time from all over the United States. They're coming in here. They're working on a top-of-the-line technology with aviation, and they're not just coming here for a day. They're coming here for weeks and weeks and training and all kinds of additional learning opportunities. It's helping fuel the innovation campus out at WSU. So whenever we're told that we have buildings like that and we have nothing else that we can do to tear them down, I think the Kansas Coliseum is a great example of how we can repurpose buildings.
Well, I could be wrong. I think it was $900 and some thousand that it sold for, and I remember there were a lot of questions at the time. Should it be selling for a whole lot more than that? Because land alone, land value, But yeah, no, NIAR does a lot of wonderful things. I met someone from NIAR who actually came to town to, I think it was like a 2-month stint, and then ended up staying and lives here now. I do know that they have some high tech and really cool stuff going on at NIAR. If you have spent some time at NIAR or you're with NIAR, give us a call. 316-491-5787 is the number. And the person I talked to shot rubber chickens at windshields. I'm not kidding. That was actually what they were doing. And they were testing the windshield because it's an important part of airplanes. You don't want that to,
When I worked at Cessna, everybody had the chicken stories about back in the day when they used to shoot the chicken in the gun at the windshields.
So they still do it. I don't know if it's...
I don't know that they use a
like
bird like they did.
No, not the chicken, but it's funny to hear. Okay, so one other thing too, I wanted to go back and while we're talking about the economic impact, on the Riverfront Legacy Master Plan, when you're taking a look at that, are there things in there you like and things you don't like? And what about some of the other council members? If you got a question about that or anything, 316-491-5787. I don't know if there's a consensus right now on the council or things with that master plan.
We're kind of holding back until we hear directly about it at the council meeting. Right now, I'm kind of feeling some different. I think, Mayor Longwell made some comments from the bench this week that I think he's kind of in the same line of thinking that I am, that we believe they didn't do enough to look at repurposement opportunities for the current building. It was more of what can we do with this great land, and I wasn't under that understanding before we put our $100,000 investment into it that we were only looking at the land. I thought we were looking specifically at the building. I can't imagine why we would have done that and say the building was out of scope.
Okay, so basically $100,000 to have a seat at the table in these discussions to see what comes next for that. Okay, well, let's talk about buses for a little bit. We've got a really cool thing going on. I love this a lot. Wichita has buses that are electric now.
Yes, absolutely.
Very
we
cool.
just rolled those out last week.
Now, I'm told these things will go about 150 miles. Normally, they wouldn't go that far, but We don't have a lot of hills in Wichita like a Kansas City would for their downtown area. So there's the mayor, Wichita Transit, battery electric, zero emissions. It sounds like we're getting a pretty good break on these things. Rolled out some of these buses, full size, zero emission. The 4 new buses will seat 29 people and have standing room capacity of 55. Did you ride the bus?
I have not ridden the electric bus.
Oh, you should. They'll be used on regular bus routes across the city. Now, the buses will charge overnight. There'll be that charging station, and I don't know yet at this point, is that charging station going to be part of this new facility that we're going to have over by the ballpark? And I say over by the ballpark, yet to be determined.
The multimodal facility.
Multimodal facility. That's a
Yes.
mouthful, but what that means is essentially you'll have buses that can charge there. You'll have scooters that could be, bicycles, the exchange could be there.
So basically, the multimodal facility is going to be for whatever forms of transportation come in the future. Whether it's more bicycling, whether it's we end up with these cars that pilot themselves, scooters. We've heard a lot about scooters this year. It might be an opportunity to. That's only a pilot program. It'll be interesting to see how we go forward with that. But it's of all means of transportation, and of course we would like to see it located close to the ballpark because it could be we could kill 2 birds with 1 stone, so to speak. We could utilize it for parking for the baseball stadium, as well as we could use it for an opportunity for transportation to move from one point to the other, or you ride your bicycle in there, you grab a bus, you go to somewhere else in the city. So I think it's I got to thank Congressman Estes. He's been fighting hard for us in Washington, D.C., came through with us on this. Almost 90% of this is paid for with our federal tax dollars. So we appreciate any time we can get that money back here in Wichita.
Thank you, Ron Estes, for that. Yes. Okay, let's go to a caller, 316-491-5787. That's the number. Fred, you are on the line. You have a question about the city council. Go ahead. Fred, are you there? Okay, maybe. Fred,
Yes. What I'd like to know is, hello?
Yeah, you're on the air. Go ahead, Fred.
Hello?
Fred, if you can hear me, you are on the air. Go ahead with your question and we will answer it.
Yes. What I'd like to know is, what changes are you going to see in the city council since we're going to have a different mayor?
Very, very good question, and it'll be interesting to see how that does. A lot of people don't realize we are not a strong mayor city. So the mayor has the same vote as everyone else on the city council. The major difference between the mayor, obviously he's the figurehead of the city and the folks that, who folks are going to look at. But really the responsibilities of the mayor, he's a full-time employee. The city council is a part-time employee, although I don't think you'll find a city council member that's working less than 40 hours a week for the city. But it'll be interesting to see. The mayor leads the meetings, and the last mayor we had that came in that didn't work their way up through the council was Carlos Mayans. I think he came from the House of Representatives as well, just like our new mayor-elect. So I'm optimistic that our new mayor is going to do the right things for him. I've only talked to him a couple times. Him and I have texted back and forth a little bit, and it'll be it'll be interesting to see how it goes. I think it'll be a big eye opener for somebody that hasn't served on the council, that if they don't realize how much time that you have to invest into being the council. My daughter's here with me tonight. She can attest that we go months and months without being at home on a weeknight, just because
she's here tonight.
She came in here. Yep, absolutely. But and I try to do that with my kids, because we'll go weeks and weeks, months and months. I think I've went 4 and 5 months before and not been home in an evening with my kids, just because somebody always wants you to speak at an event, or you have a neighborhood meeting or something like that. So I know he has 3 young children. I had 2 of my kids were not born until I was on the council, so I had 2 babies. So thank you so much to my wife Megan for everything she did with juggling the kids. But
super wife.
It definitely has a lot more to it than what a lot of people realize. It's not just showing up at Tuesdays for a meeting.
Okay, 316-491-5787. That's the number. Karen, you have a question for Call the Mayor, the Vice Mayor, Jeff Blubaugh. Go ahead. You're on the show.
Hi, Karen.
Nope. Yes. Well, if we can get her back, I have a question that was
Okay.
given to me off Facebook. What will the city do about all the red light runners? Okay, so it sounds like a question for police, but I know that there's been some talk of getting the lights to be synchronized.
So this is a very good question, and a lot of times we will. I've asked the Wichita Police Department to, always try to set up these where we're trying to where we're trying to monitor the speed, make sure that it's in high accident areas. And one of the areas we did that on Ridge Road, they did a saturation point right off of Ridge and Kellogg recently, because I had seen on the accident report there were 47 accidents in that.
And that's at Ridge?
Ridge and Kellogg, right there where you're going off.
Karen, hopefully he's in the middle of answering your question, but you're on the show.
No, it's not the question.
Okay, we'll get
The
back to
old
that.
downtown, what used to be the old downtown library, what is becoming of the building there? And then, too, Gander Mountain, where that used to be, the building, there's supposed to be a truck company coming in, and what's becoming of that?
So the old library right now, the city has been waiting. They didn't want to move anything forward until we figured out what the future of Century 2 was. We didn't want to, we have a lot of people that come into Wichita that believe that the old library is an architectural beauty, and it's something that you don't see anywhere. It's kind of a treasure, and we certainly wanted to make sure that whatever we did with that building was complementary on what we do with the rest of the area. The Gander Mountain facility, the company that comes in there, they're logistics management company, where I think what they're doing is they're looking for empty loads throughout the United States. Whenever somebody goes one way with a load and they'd be deadheading back the other way, meaning they'd be coming back with an empty load, they logistically are trying to make sure that those trucks are full. I believe they're in the middle of the remodel right now. I actually had a call from them today, and wanting me to meet up with them and come over there and look, but I think they're they've been going through their remodel, and I think they're scheduled to open in January.
You said deadheading. You used the right terminology there.
Thank you.
I'm impressed. Wow. Okay. So yeah, King of Freight. So I've talked to some people that work there, eating some lunch downtown at the pop-up park, which is very cool, by the way. I like that place. And I believe it has scooters and bikes there, doesn't it? Both of them.
I believe so.
Park? Yeah. So anyway, everybody I've talked to out there says they absolutely love their job. So it's good to see them kind of being in Wichita and expanding in Wichita and growing. So Karen, I hope that answered your questions both. So getting back to your thought about what will we do with all of the people who are running red lights was the question. So
thank you, Craig. So after the enforcement that we had been working on over there, or the WPD had been working on over there at Ridge and Kellogg, I came to the conclusion, because I've went through there myself, as soon as you go through the intersection, the light changes. So if people don't run it, a lot of times you end up with cars that are backed up through there, and they could end up sticking out into the intersection. So I've asked the staff to go and look at several of these different locations like that, because I think some of it is an engineering issue, and it definitely needs to be addressed. The whole purpose of speed enforcement is for safety. So if our own engineering downfalls are a contributor to some of these accidents, then I think it's time to, we go in there and take a look. I've been asking for the synchronization for several years. It is a very, very multi-million-dollar price tag, and it will obviously have to be done in phases, but it is definitely something that needs to be done.
that was my understanding. Gary Jansen, the city engineer, has looked into that, and he says that yes, it would be phased in. He says, yes, it's an expensive proposition, but it's something that the city has looked at. And Gary Jansen's first to tell you he's got a sense of humor. He works very hard, but he's got a sense of humor about doing his job and trying to do it well. And he probably works a lot of overtime.
He does. Well, I don't know that Gary's compensated for it, but he's a good man.
Oh, that's right. He's on
working.
salary. Yeah. Okay. Sorry, Gary.
But I will tell you, I get emails from Gary late at night, Sunday nights.
Yeah.
I mean, he works all the time. So we appreciate you, Gary. Just get the stoplight synchronized for us, buddy.
316-491-5787. That is the number if you want to call and ask about anything, including the holiday break, perhaps what Jeff will be doing for the holidays.
Yep, absolutely.
And who's your daughter? Where is she?
Avery?
Avery.
I don't know where she went.
Yeah, we'll have her here in a minute. So, Mike, you are on the show. You have a question for Call the Mayor, the Vice Mayor. Mike, go ahead.
Yes, Mr. Vice Mayor, I'd like to know what happened to the Ferris wheel downtown that they've been showing on the news and on the TV, and I haven't seen it lately, so I just wondered if it was still on.
That's a good question. I have not heard any more about the Ferris wheel. I know that they were wanting to do it down there right at Douglas and McLean and the riverfront development. I understand they felt like that was going to be blocking the view of the river. So we've been working by Lou Schwettenheimer, the owner of the baseball team. The Ferris wheel was his idea, and he ended up saying, well, maybe I'll move it down a little bit further south. But we're still waiting to hear what development they're going to put in there. I have not heard him say that he's going to pull the plans back, but I think he's trying to see how it will complement the rest of his development.
Okay, thank you for that question. 316-491-5787 is the number to call if you have anything. I did want to ask too, at baseball, I wanted to bring that in because right now we're looking at a time frame where we have to have the baseball diamond open, up, running, and ready to go. And I know we've got a lot of dirt turned out there. We've got a lot of structure out there. We've got grass in there. But what is your understanding of making that deadline and playing ball for the first deadline?
I've heard we're there.
There.
I was told all summer that we were ahead of schedule. Everything was looking good. So now, most all the shell has been on the outside. Everything's been done. The grass has been planted. I know that there was a little bit of a panic moment whenever they were putting in, as soon as they laid the sod down there, we had that deep freeze. I think they had some sprinkler issues because when you're putting down that kind of high dollar sod, you have to keep it very wet. But I think they worked through that. So now it's all interior finishes. So there is no reason why we shouldn't be watching our first baseball game in April.
Well, that sounds wonderful. And yeah, it's this time of year, you never know. Like I said before, we recorded and they're doing the show live right now. We had a lot of snow in the area, and it's all kind of just melted away. So 316-491-5787 is the number. I did get a request to ask you a question, and so I'll bring that to you now. That was brought to me on Facebook. So I'll get to that in just a second. But okay, we do have another caller. Charles, you are on the show. What is your question, Charles? Go ahead.
Well, the city's been trying to promote bus ridership with the old buses, and I presume they're still going to be interested in doing that with the new electric buses. And we've seen on the news where they have the new electric buses, but there's not really any details about it. For instance, can a bicycle rider still get his bicycle attached to the front of the bus to go across town and then get off with his bicycle? And what about handicapped people and the chairlift for the wheelchairs, and where will the wheelchairs sit in the bus? It's too bad that somebody couldn't get one of the news crews or one of the stations to do a little 30-second blurb and maybe walk through the inside of the bus with the camera and show people what that's like and how the wheelchair lift would work and how the bicycles would lift. I've never seen that before.
Well, that's great feedback, and I'll pass that along to our communications group at the city and make sure that we go out there and explain that better. But it's my understanding that none of those benefits will go away, that you'll continue to be able to do everything you can. I think the only difference is it's electric powered versus gas powered.
I've been climbing through my notes and I can't find it anywhere in here. I've run down to whether I know the battery pack is rated for the extra weight. I know that it could handle it, so just be a matter of retrofitting. I don't know, maybe they have been retrofitted, or I have to ask Mike Tan about that. Mike, if you're listening, call 316-491-5787. We need an answer. I don't know it. Vice Mayor is given a good answer, but specifics, the bikes and some other things. Okay, so let me jump off to this question that was asked to me to ask to you. At some point, something going to be done about the Kellogg Speedway. That was how it was put to me, is that there's still a lot of speeding on Kellogg.
So, again, it gets back to the high accident areas, and we've asked WPD to stay in the high accident areas. I know they've been monitoring Kellogg. This afternoon, I know whenever I came through Kellogg, or this morning rather, it was about 9:30. I was coming from downtown going back out west for a meeting, and I know there were radar points at West Street, at Ridge Road, and I believe there was one at Tyler. I had an issue last night where I'd had several different callers call me about 27th Street off Meridian, between Meridian and Glen, and they were telling me that, it's a 30-mile-an-hour speed limit in there, and people have been running under 50, 60 mile an hour. Yes. A lot of people going to school, passing buses, and were afraid that children were hurt, and I had asked them to monitor that area as well. But I think Wichita Police is doing a very good job of staying on Kellogg and trying to stay in the high accident areas.
And there are some, we know. Kellogg's open again, so it's...
It is, and I know everybody's just trying to go with the flow of the traffic, but you can't have everybody going 80 mile an hour on there. So, and I've noticed it seems like during rush hour there's been an increase of accidents lately, and I'm sure the speed, and especially as we're getting into the colder weather, we get into the ice, it's just, if you get in the habit of driving that extra speed, it's certainly gonna, it's gonna catch up with you somewhere.
You hear it from journalists all the time, slow down and stay alive. I guess that is absolutely the case. All right, Frederick, you're on the show. What is your question? Welcome to Call the Mayor. Frederick, go ahead.
How are you doing today?
Good, thank you.
Well, the question I'd like to ask is, why come you guys don't take the Century 2 and make it a casino where it could benefit the riverfront?
Casino has been popular in Kansas, the one in Hayesville, south of Wichita.
Yep.
So,
Mulvane.
Mulvane, thank you. I know this has been brought up before. I know we had an old mayor that brought this up and wanted to bring up a county vote. Your thoughts? Has anybody brought up casino on the council to answer Frederick's question? Thank you, Frederick. We appreciate
the state has been the holdup on that right now, and it goes back to the ballot question we had a few years ago, where I don't think a lot of people understood the ballot question at the time, but it basically said, do you want gambling in Sedgwick County or no? I don't think people realized that they were going to set up a casino on the Sedgwick-Sumner County line if they voted no. So we could have had that revenue. We could have had the casino down there in Century 2. The voters said no, but now I'm hearing a lot of conversations that they do feel like maybe there's a need in there. I feel like I hear a lot of people telling me Kansas Star probably needs a little bit of competition, that they're really not doing the payouts like a lot of casinos do. And
I know there are casinos not too far from there on the Oklahoma side.
I personally would like to see slots get in back at the Greyhound Park again. I don't know that we need to bring Greyhounds back again, but I think it'd be good to, if people choose to gamble, I think it gives them a choice whether you want to go to Mulvane or you want to go somewhere else. I don't think anybody, whether it's the state or anybody else, should be able to monopolize any industry.
Well, there you have it. Thank you. Okay, so Dave, you're on Call the Mayor. What's your question? Welcome, Dave.
My question is about the parking around the new stadium. I grew up in that area. We didn't have enough parking when they had the big nights, Vickers nights and Dillon's and stuff like that, who supported. We didn't have enough parking.
Dave, finish your question, Dave. Go ahead.
So my question is, where is the parking supposed to be? Because I've been around the stadium now, and I don't know. Are they going to be parking in 3 or 4 blocks away to walk to the Ball Diamond?
Stay on the line there, Dave, if you can. I wanted to keep you, but let's start with that part of it.
Okay. We have been working on parking. We've obviously got the multimodal facility we're looking at. The City Council just introduced on Tuesday that we're looking at purchasing the property that is west of the stadium right now. That would offer some more parking spots. We do have the Century 2 parking lot. I can't remember the exact number of parking spaces, but there is a pretty strong number within a distance. But we realize if it's not easy and convenient to get down to the ballpark, people aren't going to come. So we've been working on this for several months now, and I feel like, opening day, we're going to have the shuttles, we're going to have the queue line to get people there, but long term, we're going to end up with much closer parking, because a lot of Wichitans have reached out to said that if it's not close and convenient, they won't go, and we want everybody in those stands.
Dave, are you still there by chance? No, he's not. All right, thank you. Okay, Lane, you are on the show. 316-491-5787. You can ask a question. Lane, welcome to the show. What is your question?
Yes, I have a question in regards to the NBC and what the future will be for the NBC with the new ball club coming in and the city of Wichita. Thank you.
So the biggest change you're going to see with the NBC is rather than having both weeks played at the new stadium, they will do the first week at, I believe, either WSU or the city is working with Fringe University. We're doing a joint venture with them to redo the West Side Stadium over there to do the first week. And in the second week, the final rounds will all be played at the new stadium.
So kind of a win-win there.
Yeah.
It spreads it around. We did get a question on Facebook, 316-491-5787. That's the number to call in. Facebook question is, why can't we stop the Wichita Eagle from throwing their weekly ads, not the paper, but the weekly ads in people's yards? Is there a city nuisance ordinance on, well, there is a city ordinance on nuisance, but that might be a good legal question. Does that apply?
I think, have they called into the number? Because I used to have the same issue, and I called in to a number some time ago and got them to quit throwing them at our house. We're not getting them anymore, and they're supposed to be, they're supposed to be respectful of that whenever you call in and have that removed. So that would be the question.
You found
I would
that
ask.
they were respectful of that.
I was, yeah.
Okay, well, there you go. Okay, 316-491-5787. Dave, you have a question. Welcome to call Dan, sorry. You're on the show. What's your question, Dan?
Jeff, at one time I thought you had been at Town West about some plans for the Town West area. Are there any plans for that area, or is it just going to continue to die?
I think the new developer that came, or the new purchaser that came in there has added some new stores or has plans to add some new stores. It was actually about a week ago where I'd had a constituent reach out to me and they were looking for new opportunities within Town West. So I had, we'd reached out to them and asked them what opportunities, and they said that they had a vision, had some new ideas and stuff. But right now, since that's privately owned, the city doesn't have a lot of control on that. But if they're willing to work with us, I think there's a lot of folks that would like to see something happen. I think everyone knows Town West has really never done what Town East did, and it's been kind of a low performing mall. So I think someone with some vision. A lot of malls throughout the United States are bringing in some new ideas, and I think it's a great opportunity to bring something into Town West.
All right, 316-491-5787 is the number to call. And as far as Town West goes, I know that it was owned by the same people that owned Town East at one point, and we've heard a lot of questions about development in that area. What is the rest of the footprint there that could add new businesses? Is there something on the other side of the river there? The river, I guess, I want to say canal, but it's the big ditch. So,
well, I know there's developers that have bought up a lot of the ground around West Street when you turn off, and you see they're putting in that major quick shop there. They put in the Verizon store. They put in the car wash. The same developers own the old Kmart store. They bought that Bishop's Family Dining. So I've been in contact with them, and they keep looking for opportunities to be able to bring somebody else in there.
Okay, Dustin, you have a question. You are on Call the Mayor Wichita. Dustin, welcome.
Hey, welcome, guys. Hey, my question is regarding the baseball stadium and right around the green space along the river. I know initially when they showed the plans, it looked like they were going to have either like a playground in the outfield or like a splash pad. And I have a little daughter, so I was just curious when we go out to the ballpark if there's going to be anything kind of like Lawrence Dumont had to keep the kids entertained.
I love the call. I've got to tell you, I absolutely love the call. This is something I've been asking about for 8 months now. Can we get a splash pad out there? A wonderful idea. What thoughts on that?
So I think it'd be a great idea. If you look at the total budget on the baseball stadium, it was around $75 million. Just for comparison side, some of the numbers we've been throwing around for a convention center, we're talking $1 billion. We're talking $150 million, $300 million here and there. $75 million. It's a pretty low price tag. It's these other price tags are about 10 times what that is. So we'd love to see something like that. I don't think that's on the plans right now. But some of the neat ideas I have seen is they want to do like drive-in movie night and stuff like that out there, where you can come out there to the stadium, do drive-in movies and stuff like that. And I agree, they want it to be kid-friendly, and hopefully we bring in some kind of park or something like that.
Well, I know you've got state championship football games all over the place. You could have one at the new ballpark.
And that's one thing I want folks to understand too. There's over 200 scheduled events a year that'll be at this new stadium. Wow. It's not just baseball. It's going to be something every month. It's going to be in Thanksgiving, some kind of turkey trot. For Christmas, every month there should be something. Outdoor concerts. There's going to be a lot of great opportunities. Even if you're not a baseball fan, high school game of the week, they're going to be playing down there. There's going to be a lot of great opportunities.
So where do we stand on, aside from the parking issue around the baseball stadium, where do we stand with getting McLean up and running again? Or will that remain closed next to the river? Will that portion of McLean, will that just be closed until the ballpark's open?
It'll probably be until the ballpark is open, until it's open, and it will only be one lane both ways. From the studies that I've seen, that's supposed to be acceptable for the traffic flow that comes through there. A lot of the Southsiders that I represent, they really miss that. A lot of them love that stroll along the river, to be able to drive the river all the way up through Wichita. They use it, rather than going out to 235 or somewhere to get around town. It's definitely a thoroughfare that Southsiders use, so hopefully we can get that back and up and running as soon as we can.
I didn't realize how much of a thoroughfare McLean is by the river there, because people enjoy the view until this came about, and people have asked about that. So, I guess it'll be good to have it open. That segues to something else. I'll get to that in a second. 316-491-5787. Call us. You've got a few minutes left here where you can still call and ask the Vice Mayor some questions. So, one lane each direction. Douglas, one lane in each direction, turn lane in the middle. Then you've got, essentially from the middle, you got the turn lane, then one lane in each direction. Then you've got the scooters and bikes, and then you've got parking as well. So where does that stand now? I know that's been kicked around as a pilot project idea.
Okay, so I've got a meeting scheduled, I think, next week or the week after Christmas, where I'm going to sit down and they're going to explain to me how this one-lane Douglas is going to work. Because, we agreed to narrow McLean to one lane, but I'm thinking the same thing that you are, Craig. How are you going to reduce that to one lane and then reduce Douglas to one lane? And then what happens when we get out of one of these 200 events that we have?
Well, and it's not that either one is a bad idea or it's not a great idea. They both could be great ideas, but those two do connect.
Right.
And if there's baseball traffic, it's something I've not asked the question of, so I guess I'm asking you. I don't know if you had any, if that would work. And I don't know that it wouldn't work necessarily, because there are good outlets and there are some one-ways on the east side of the river. So I know traffic can disperse that way, but in the other side, once you get over to Delano, traffic moves a little more slowly typically.
To be perfectly honest, when it comes to thinning down Douglas to one lane, I have more questions than answers.
Okay. I remember asking a few questions of the city about a month ago as to whether or not that would work. I know they went ahead and, I guess, did we accept a check, we being the city, for $25,000?
We accepted the grant.
It can be returned?
But we can return it. Because we asked that specifically from the bench, and we make sure everyone understood that we were not locked into doing anything other than accepting the money, but we could turn the grant back.
Okay, what about our new park downtown? Have you seen it lately? It looks pretty good over there.
Yeah, absolutely. Pretty excited about it.
Where is 316-491-5787? We've still got a little time. You can call with another question. But over by Intrust Arena, I know there'd been talk about bringing a wall in, like a permanent addition there, just a little bit to the north of Intrust, to go ahead and show movies at the park, at Nofsky Park, and do some things like that. Where do we stand on that? Is that going to happen?
I have not heard that specifically, but I do know all along with Nafsinger Park, they wanted to make sure it was, one, an apron to come in and out of the stadium, but another thing, it was supposed to be a public engagement area, an area where more people could come out, and it was kind of a transition to get people from the stadium through Old Town, through visiting Union Station, all the areas around there in downtown Wichita.
I know when the NCAA tournament was in town, that was utilized by a lot of people.
That
seemed to work really well with not only traffic, and I know this because there were no media doing stories on how bad the traffic was. There weren't. It seemed to go fairly well. Did you spend any time during the NCAA tournament?
Absolutely did.
I figured you would.
I mean, that was.
I kind of thought you would. That's fun stuff.
That was one of those times, and people were really proud to be a Wichita.
Yes. Absolutely. Okay, we got time for another call. 3.5 minutes left here. 316-491-5787. That's the number to call. Are you going anywhere for Christmas?
I'm going to spend a little time with this young lady that's right out here. She's like, Avery, come out here.
Say hi.
I'll
apologize to Wichita State and Jayhawk fans because she's wearing K-State colors, but okay.
So this is the girl I'll be spending some time with.
Yeah.
I have 2 girls and 2 boys. So my oldest son, Hayden, my younger son, Sam, and then my 2 girls are Harper and Avery. So we'll be looking forward to that. My wife and I, our anniversary is actually in between Christmas and New Year's as well. So hopefully her and I plan to get away and spend a little time together. So mostly just family time. The kids are out of school, and it's a great time, like I discussed earlier, where you're gone so much in the evenings and stuff.
Yes.
And I really want to take advantage of any time I can to spend with this beautiful face right here.
Okay, I got to put Dad on the spot. Do you want to help me? Does he have a tree up? He does. Okay, good. You got a Christmas. You're winning. Okay, good job,
But
Dad.
Mommy did it, didn't she?
All right, whatever works for the family. That's good. Hey, look, we can still take a question if you want. 316-491-5787. That includes, anything you'd like to ask. I do want to ask you, too, when it comes to the city, when do we really start I know these are the holidays and things get busy. When do we start really looking at making some decisions again after the first of the year? Because like I said, or the caller said too, that the new mayor is going to be kind of on board and learning, and I know he's been going to the council meetings as well.
So if you look at the council schedule, Mayor Longwell is still our mayor for January 7th.
Yes.
The following January 13th, we'll be doing the swearing in of the new mayor, and myself and the 2 other Councilmember Tuttle and Councilmember Fry that were reelected will be sworn in for our term, and then the following day on the 14th, and that's when business starts all over. And we still got a lot of business we had a marathon meeting this last Tuesday, and we have a pretty big agenda on the 7th, and then we'll continue with the new mayor and going forward after that.
Okay, we got about a minute left. Chris, if you're there, you're on the show. Quickly, 5 seconds. What's your question? Chris, go ahead.
Awesome. Yeah, I was just wondering if there were any plans to build flyovers on West Kellogg over 119th and 135th Street. There's a lot of traffic out here. Just wondering if that was in the plan.
Thank you so much for asking that question, because that was something that I brought up at this last Tuesday's meeting, because we're starting to divert money from the 1-cent sales tax from Kellogg, and my position is Kellogg is not done. We have 119th, we have 135th, we have 151st, but mostly 119th. It's kind of a difficult area there. We pulled out the stoplight at 111th. We were stopping 40,000 cars a day over there, and that's something that I continue to, before we start moving that money around to a lot of different places, I want to ensure that we finish Kellogg. Just because east side of Kellogg's done doesn't mean Kellogg's done. So thank you very much for that question.
All right. Hey, thank you for being here.
Thanks, Craig.
Appreciate it. Thank you for jumping in. Well, happy holidays to everybody, of course. We're glad you watched the show. And if you're watching it online again, you can, get us on Facebook. All right, that's our time with Call the Mayor. I'm Craig Andrus. Have a good one.